everybody? Welcome to Teeks and Takedowns, episode 4. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a great show planned ahead for you. We're going to go over this pay-per-view card, and we got a couple little segments in between and around them. Let's start off this show by recapping Fight Night San Diego. Paul, give me your thoughts on that card we just watched last weekend.
Yeah, I thought it was a great card. Our fry pick of the week last week for the shit card to be awesome. Cash back to back, so you love to see that. As far as the boys gambling night, wasn't the best, so I wish we could get the fry picks on the Vegas books. But Cheeto, he might not have thrown a punch besides that left hook in the first 2 rounds, and he still dropped Cruz in one of those rounds. So I think he's like him and Peter Yan is a great fight because they would just be trying to make their reads for 2 rounds and then it would turn into a nice slugfest. But Dom looks really good. Great entries on his takedowns from his head movement. But if you move your head like that against, it's your feet are getting crossed all the time against a guy with good Muay Thai stance, you're susceptible to that head kick. Bear's got a bright future in that bantamweight division. He's young, experienced. He's a finisher. He can submit you. He can knock you out. He can ground and pound you. I also love that Nathan Train fight. He's a bit of an asshole with all the taunting, but hit the other fried pick of the week for him to give a crazy post-fight speech if he won it plus 400, also cash. So come on, Vegas. Let's get these picks on the books. Get the people going. And yeah, what did you think of the card?
Yeah, I got brought back down to earth from the gambling gods 2 weeks ago. I thought I was on a hot streak coming this week. Absolutely terrible on all Bellator, PFL, and UFC. So definitely don't follow my picks. A bunch of big favorites losing in UFC. Some examples: Onama, Bruno Silva, Ode Osborne. They all didn't really help me. Dom looked unbelievable in the first 2 rounds. Going into the 3rd round, he was using a lot of energy, but I thought it was working. But Cheeto's terrifying. He read his movement. He faked right, head kick left, landed beautifully, landed flush, broke his nose on impact. It was kind of gross, tough to see for the legend Dom Cruz to go out. That's the sport they're in. Can Cheeto make a title run? He's a scary finisher. It's a very tough, very deep division, but I could see him getting there. He's very powerful, very explosive, and has a very well-rounded game. Into the co-main, Onama, Landwehr. Onama's gas tank, there was suspicion on it, and it finally really gave him problems. He looked good in round 1. Round 2 did not go his way. It looked like he gassed out, and Landwehr kind of just put on a show. One of the funniest clips I've ever seen. There was about 4 minutes left. He just got up, let him up like twice in a row, and actually celebrated in between each one like he was playing UFC 4. Nina Nunes retired on the card. She wants to go take care of her kids. All respect for that. Gerald Meerschaert, how did he win? He looked unbelievable. Makes no sense. Sport makes 0 sense at all. He dropped Bruno Silva, something Pereira couldn't have done. So that made 0 sense to me, but it happened. And in PFL news, Rory McDonald retired. He faced a tough KO loss and hung up the gloves, which I think it's the right thing to do at that point. No reason to fight. He already has his legacy. All right, so let's move into our smoke break picks of the week. These are our picks where if you got to miss a fight on this card, this is the one to miss. And my pick this week, I'm going to go Tyson Pedro and Hunsucker. I have no idea how this is on the main card of a pay-per-view. Hunsucker has lost to Vandera, Tafa, the Nelk man. He got knocked out by he's moving down to light heavyweight. UFC clearly wants to push Pedro in this one, but he's also lost to an old OSP and Shogun Hua 10 years ago. That's not a bad loss. Now it is. Pedro is minus 750 to open. I expect Pedro to get this done early, which means they're going to go to Rashad Evans on the desk for 20 minutes, and that is where you can get your smoke break in. Let me hear your smoke break this week, Paul.
I mean, that's an amazing call on the Rashad Evans desk pan for 20 minutes unnecessarily to fill airtime. But I know you tend to pick the women's fight as your smoke break of the week. I feel like past couple shows it's been me going with the men's heavyweights and you going with the women's. But I opted for Lucy Pazalova versus Yanan Wu as my smoke break fight of the week. And my reasoning for this is it's like not the worst fight, but they've been the decisions each in their last three, and Padova in her last five. She's like a 13-7 fighter versus 13-5 fighter, nothing crazily special. And neither of their fights have been particularly good, either with Padova outside of the UFC or Wu inside the UFC. There might be some striking and some Caitlin Chikagian noises, but overall, I think this would be a good fight to get your smoke in, get ready for the rest of the card. There'll be a bunch of bangers on this card. I really like the card as a whole. So I don't even think this is necessarily an awful fight. Like, it could be entertaining, but this is my pick because I think a lot of the other fights are going to absolutely bang. Even Pedro Hunsucker, like, I think that fight's over in 2 minutes or less.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's hop into a new segment we have, and we're going to go for our prelim fight of the nights. We're going to take a sleeper fight of the night pick that we think is going to be a banger. Great pitcher for the AJ Fletcher there, which leads me into my pick. I'm going to take AJ Fletcher versus Ange Loosa. These guys are both electric guys. AJ Fletcher had a great knockout in the Contender Series. It was a spinning back kick to the body, right into a fake takedown, into a flying knee. Absolutely beautiful. He's a great prospect. Trains out of Lafayette, Louisiana with Dustin Poirier. He's looking to rebound from a tough loss from Summelsberger. But on Loosa's side, he lost in the decision last time out, but it was on 4 days' notice. So he's got that dog in him. He's a very explosive guy, crazy power, brutal ground and pound. I see this one being violent either way, on the feet, on the ground, at all times.
Yeah, I absolutely love that fight. Loosa, he looked good on the Contender Series versus Maddalena, but lost, and looking good versus Jack Della Maddalena is phenomenal prospect in my opinion. That's amazing. He's one of those explosive Sanford MMA guys who just come to bang. AJ Fletcher comes to bang. I think it will be a great fight. But for the interest of the show, I'm going to be going with a different fight, and I picked Sean Woodson versus Luis Saldana in the featherweight division. And I just think this is a super interesting fight. Woodson is a 6'2" featherweight. Hey man, how is that possible? How many calories are you eating? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's worse, that or like Sean O'Malley at 135. But this guy Sean Woodson, he has amazing boxing game, amazing jab. You're probably like a normal featherweight sparring another dude who's like 5'10", 5'11", and you gotta go in there with a dude 6'2". He's probably hitting you from halfway across the cage. Very tough for people to deal with. Mixes in that left hook to the body super well. Good teeps. Good takedown game. Like, he can go to the grappling if he has to. In the Zalal fight, he was able to defer the grappling. But his last time out, he had a devastating left hook to the body, shut the guy off. Amazing finish. And a win that really stuck out to me it was a little earlier in Terrence McKinney's career, but he finished Terrence McKinney with a flying knee and ground and pound on the Contender Series, and that's no easy task. So I take that very highly. And Saldana has looked pretty good in the UFC. He has a win over Jordan Griffin that was relatively hotly contested. A lot of people thought Griffin won that fight, but Saldana's got unorthodox kicks, good round kicks, mixes them in well. Woodson, he's going to come forward, pressure forward with his jab. But his endurance has been suspect in the past. Against Julian Erosa, he was beating up Erosa the whole fight, gassed out, got submitted, Darce choke, it was over. But I think this will be an interesting fight because both these guys are long, rangy, like that long kicking range. And Woodson more of like a jabbing range with how tall he is. I could see either a fun 3-round striking fight or a Saldana late finish, but I'm super excited for this prelim fight.
All right, well, let's move into this week's main card, and let's kick it off with our main event. It is going to be Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, their second fight. Paul, tell me what you're thinking about this main event.
Yeah, so I'm extremely excited for this fight. This is one of my most anticipated fights. I know people like to rag on Leon Edwards a lot for, the Bilal no contest. him beating up on lightweights like RDA, Cowboy, people like that. But Usman 16-0 in the UFC, 19-fight win streak. There's one loss by rear naked choke on the regional scene to Alex Caceres' brother, featherweight in the UFC. Shout out to him. And then on the other hand, Leon 10-fight unbeaten streak. He was looking amazing in the Bilal Muhammad fight. He threw the left hand to set up the high kick. Unfortunately, caught Bilal in the eyes. Things happen in MMA. It's an extremely volatile sport. You never know what's going to happen there. Usman, he's got the phenomenal D2, three-time All-American, one-time champion, collegiate wrestling face. And his work with Trevor Whitman's been something to watch, adding in a great jab from both stances, dropping Gilbert Burns from southpaw with the jab. You don't see a lot of guys in MMA be able to fight from both stances. I've been adding on a cross, as you saw in that Masvidal fight. In the Colby Covington fight, he dropped him twice with a lead hook, so you just see him adding new stuff every fight. In the first Colby Covington fight, he added a lot of teep kicks up the middle, a lot of front kicks to the gut, and that tired Colby Covington out, and Colby Covington had worse cardio than Kamaru Usman, and you really see that. Like, usually Colby's outpacing everyone, but Usman warmed down with those body kicks and was able to finish him. Edwards, this guy has some of the best Muay Thai like in MMA. Amazing southpaw round kick, head kick, and that's going to be super interesting in this matchup considering it's southpaw orthodox. Those body kicks for Leon are going to be there. Might make Usman a little cautious letting off his right hand because he let that right hand go. He's vulnerable to the head kick. But the thing that, to me, that makes this fight easier for Kamaru than Leon is Leon likes those clinch elbows, those clinch knees. It's going to be tough for him to control Usman's strength in that clinch. And I feel like Usman can duck down and get takedowns whenever he wants. Leon's been working his grappling a lot, his BJJ. He does have submissions on his record, including some impressive ones in the UFC. And he had Usman in a pretty tight triangle in the first fight. But I just think Usman's strength here is going to make Leon a little cautious about utilizing his clinch weapons. And I think he can get takedowns here. Usman has a 2-inch reach advantage, so that jab will be popping most of the fight. But on the other hand, Leon does have 70% takedown defense. So, he's pretty good at stuffing takedowns. And he has some good offensive grappling in his own right. Thing to me that was interesting while looking at some of the stats, I'm not a huge stats guy, but Usman averaged almost 2 strikes per minute more, which is interesting. Leon was around 2.3 and Usman was at 4.4. So I thought that was interesting. And in my opinion, I see Usman winning this fight by knockout. Leon's a great striker and all, great technically. But he's been tagged in a lot of fights. Cowboy, Barberena dropped him and almost finished him. Nate Diaz wobbled him badly. RDA had some shots there. But I see Kamaru getting this done by knockout. I think the takedown threat's going to make Leon a little cautious, maybe drop his hands, and Usman will get the knockout.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this fight. Kamaru Usman has looked absolutely unbeatable the last few years out. When he switched to train with Trevor Whitman, his striking has improved drastically. It's actually crazy how much it has changed, knocking out Masvidal in the second fight afterwards. This presents an interesting style that Usman hasn't seen before for Leon. It could be his toughest test, arguably Colby was. We're about to see this weekend. Leon has crazy good elbows, crazy good knees, good management for his distance, good footwork, good ground game, good clinch elbows. But I think debatably Usman is the most well-rounded fighter since George St. Pierre. I think Usman has a small advantage and at least a small advantage in everywhere in this fight. And that being said, I can see Usman using the clinch in this fight. Many people saying Leon has the clinch advantage. I don't think that's true with the strength Usman has. I think he can get double underhooks against the cage. I think we could be seeing a remake of the Masvidal 1 fight because Usman wants to stay out of kickboxing range in this matchup, I think, here. Usman comes in at minus 370. I think it's a pretty fair line, but it's hard to see value in it. If anything, I'd bet the over here, but that would also be scary in this one. Yeah, let's move on to the next fight. Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold. What are you thinking here, Paul?
I mean, this is one of those matchups that you see on Twitter or Reddit, whatever your social media source is, and you're like, wait, is this a troll account? Did they like put an extra letter at the end here, or is this real? Super weird matchmaking, but interesting. You know, both these guys are in weird ass spots in their career. Paulo's career has been a shit show his last two fights. Drinking wine before a title fight, as well as for the Vettori fight, making it weight because he didn't want to cut down to 185. He had an injury. He still wanted his paycheck, and that was an amazing fight. I feel like people forget how good of a fight that was. You could honestly make an argument that Costa won that fight undamaged, but Vettori, that guy's chin is amazing. He's not the best at anything, but amazing chin, amazing heart. Rockhold hasn't fought since July of 2019. It is currently August of 2022. That's insane. 3-year layoff. His last fight was at 205. He hasn't cut down to 185 since February of 2018 against Joel Romero for the interim middleweight title. And he got knocked out viciously in that fight, had a tough weight cut. He doesn't fight much. Guy's chin is compromised. He has bad defense, likes to back up in straight lines with his hands down. He is quick. He has a great check hook, great southpaw kicks, great Brazilian jiu-jitsu top game. He has all the skills. In my opinion, he's a little cocky, doesn't have great defensive fundamentals, relies on speed, head movement, getting out of the way too much instead of just covering up and blocking some shots. He's also 37. I'm not sure what his speed, his athleticism to get the takedowns. He's not a great takedown artist in the first place. So with a little decline in athleticism, it's going to be tough to see him getting takedowns here. Costa is an easy guy to take down in his own right. I really like Costa here. You know, yeah, he's had a bunch of shenanigans, but he looks dialed in. I guess the UFC has been tracking his weight according to Rockhold, so he's going to be coming in good shape. He's going to make weight. They wouldn't put him as a co-main if they were scared about that. I think he'll win this fight by brutal knockout. Against the cage, it's Luke Rockhold getting put on a Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan type poster. He'll be memed about it on Twitter, sadly, even though he's a legend, Strikeforce champion, UFC champion. I just see him getting posterized here. What about you?
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this fight. Luke is returning. As you said, he has not fought since early 2019. I mean, in his prime, he's a very, very high-level guy, but his chin has given him a ton of problems in his recent fights. It's an absolutely terrifying matchup for him with Paulo Costa, just a heavy, heavy hitter, big, strong guy. Paulo might have a weight cut problem. I know the UFC is tracking him, but I still don't trust him at all. So we'll see. If it's a tough weight cut, that could affect how the fight goes. But if Luke gets 100% Costa, I think he's going to need to fight a near perfect fight. And I think he does have the tools to do so. But it's just going to be hard, very hard for him. I think he has a little bit of a cardio advantage. But I think there's still way too many questions about Luke. There's father time. How is he going to do with his layoff? How is his chin going to hold up? And honestly, I see this ending pretty quick. I think Rockhold might get knocked out in the first couple of rounds here. But I would love to see nothing more than a Luke Rockhold victory here.
Yeah, and just to add in a side note, I was listening to Bisping's podcast, or something with Bisping, and he mentioned, you know, he has the same coach as Luke Rockhold, which is hilarious considering their beef, but Jason Perillo, and I guess he said he was talking to Perillo, and Perillo said, Luke Rockhold, amazing athlete, but he hasn't fought in 3 years, extremely rusty. And Perillo, I guess, said to Bisping, the Rockhold hasn't been sparring much. He hasn't been in the gym as much as he'd like him to be getting those sparring rounds. And you see him doing a lot of strength and conditioning, a lot of cardio, a lot of pads, a lot of wrestling, which is great. But you need to be doing that MMA sparring, that kickboxing sparring. You need to know what it's like to be hit, especially when you've been knocked out in your last two fights. And those fights were years ago. You know, he gets tagged once, he might be like, oh, you know, Rockhold's a tough guy, but you know, you don't get hit by Paulo Costa, and like, he's not a light hitter. That's a heavy hitter, and I think this is a horrible matchup for Rockhold, but I'm super excited for it. I'd love to see a Rockhold win as a BJJ practitioner. His top game's amazing. His transitions are so smooth and glossy, and I'm super excited.
All right, let's move on to the next fight. Merab Jasvalavili versus Jose Aldo. How bad did I butcher that one?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this fight. They're finally giving Merab some respect. I've been a huge Merab fan for the longest time. it's crazy to see Jose Aldo. This was a guy who, when he was at his peak at 145, people were like, oh, this guy's having trouble making 145. He might go up to 155. Somehow he got a nutritionist. He's making 135 now. Probably some voodoo magic or some Brazilian juice involved, but not going to speculate on that. He's number 3 in bantamweight, and the UFC just scheduled a huge card, UFC 282, I believe, in Brazil next year. So you bet your ass if he wins this fight, they are going to be pushing Jose Aldo for a title fight. His past 3 has amazing wins: Cheeto, Font, Munoz, all rather dominantly. The Cheeto fight was close, but he used his grappling to get the win there, which is interesting. He had great takedown defense in most of those fights, especially against Munoz and Cheeto. There were no takedowns really there. Again, Font took him down a couple times, which is kind of concerning for this matchup because Font isn't the greatest offensive wrestler. In terms of Merab, I love his wrestling. I love his pace. He averages over 7 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is just insane. My issue here is Merab got knocked down by Moraes like 3 or 4 times, and Jose Aldo is a better finisher than Marlon Moraes. He's more calculated. He has a better gas tank. If he drops you, he's not going to go all out for the finish. He's going to calculate and make the correct decision. Moraes is more of a one-round fighter, especially at the stage of his career he was in. Crazy advantage here for Jose Aldo on the feet. Merab's going to have nothing for him in the striking department, absolutely nothing. The thing I would be concerned about with Aldo here is Merab's pace. Jose Aldo has gotten tired in fights in the past, like the Cheeto fight, especially where he backpacked Cheeto for the 3rd round. He was slowing a bit in that fight. Additionally, the 2 fights versus Max Holloway, he slowed down and took a tremendous beating. So I could see Merab maybe taking some damage early on and grinding out a win. But I like Aldo's chances here, and I'm going to be taking Jose Aldo to win here, the slight underdog.
Yeah, Jose Aldo is an all-time legend fighter, and he's still doing it with all the miles he has on him. I mean, the last couple times out, he has looked pretty damn good. Merab is a great wrestler. He's been climbing up the ranks very quick of bantamweight. Last fight out, Merab got hurt real bad by Marlon Moraes. Could have arguably been stopped twice, maybe. And then Marlon Moraes gassed out in the 2nd round and got finished. I don't think Aldo will gas out like that. And I think he has a clear advantage on the feet. I think he can finish more than Moraes. His gas tank is much better. And so if Merab gets hurt early, I think it's going to be a tough day for him. Aldo's going to pick his spots. On the flip side, it's all about takedown defense for Aldo here. If he can keep it on the feet, at least for a while, or get back to his feet, if he gets some good get-ups, it's going to be a good fight for him. I think it's a pick-em line here, and I think I see Aldo using his advantage on the feet. I think it's just too much of an advantage. Merab showed that he could go through adversity, but I'm not sure if he can go through Aldo's adversity. It's a near pick-em line. I think Aldo just has more ways to win, more tools to win. So I think I'm going to be picking him as well in this one.
Yeah, and Merab Dvalishvili is the man Sean O'Malley is the most scared of in the bantamweight division, because he has called out Sean O'Malley's name so many times. Sean O'Malley has said nothing, and Merab would absolutely drown him. That's a whole nother note. So moving on to the next fight, we have Marcin Tybura versus Alexander King Kong Romanov. Super weird fight here. I was almost considering making this my smoke break fight of the week, because Tybura's fight with Volkov last time out was absolutely awful. One of the worst fights I've ever seen. He got held up against the cage by Alexander Volkov, who is no grappler in his own right, and Tybura is supposed to be a grappler. Romanov's amazing wrestler. I mean, he beat the piss out of Vandera. Just amazing slams, suplexes, trips, foot sweeps, everything. But my issue with Romanov, 16-0, not the best competition pace, bad cardio. He did look better on the scales in his last fight, and he definitely had better cardio in that fight than in the past. But in the Juan Espino fight, he was slowing down in that fight and looked like Espino could have been on the way to a win or a decision win. Fortunately, he landed an illegal shot and he won a technical decision. Not sure how that makes sense if he was going to I'm not sure how that works, but I weirdly don't hate Tybura here. I think there's some questions about Romanov still. I don't think he has a great cardio, and I think this is more of a sloppy heavyweight fight than people would like to admit. I'm not the happiest about it being on a pay-per-view card. A lot of Romanov's wins are padded. And I think Tybura does have a cardio advantage, which is crazy to say, considering his last fight. But I think he can take it deep here and win the decision, maybe with some clinch work against the cage or some long-range striking.
Yeah, Romanov, he's an undefeated guy. He's 16-0. He's climbing his way up the ranks. His name ends in OV, so you know he's unreal at wrestling. Tybura is a high-level guy. He's been a high-level guy for a pretty long time. He's got a good amount of UFC experience. Romanov still has some cardio issues. I mean, his last time out, he won against Chase Sherman in the first round, so he didn't really have to go that long, but it was very impressive what he did to Chase Sherman, who is also a guy I'm very high on. I still expect Romanov to get the win here, but I don't hate a sprinkle on a Tybura third-round finish. I think that's possible. I think Romanov, his way to lose is to gas out in the first two, and he gets finished in the third. We'll see how that goes. And then for my bet this one, I think just for the love of the game, I'm going to be taking the over here. It's going to be a scary one. You're going to have to clench your ass cheeks. It's going to take some balls, but both of these guys have seen the third round recently. And for a heavyweight fight, I think there is some value in the over.
Actually, I like that a lot. The over 1.5, I might be on that. Romanov, Tybura is a tough guy. He ate some nukes from Walt Harris and then came back and got the finish. So I like that. But moving on to the last fight, we already discussed it a bit. Tyson Pedro versus Harry Hunsucker. This is despicable that this is on a pay-per-view card. What happened to the good old days of looking at the pay-per-view? It's 5 bangers. Kind of disappointed with these 2 fights here, but the top 3 are amazing, so it makes up for it a bit. The UFC is clearly pushing Tyson Pedro here. He's one of those guys from down under that can be a big star. He's got a fan favorite style. He comes there to bang every time. He's not there to clinch against the fence. He's not there to wrestle. Not saying those are bad things to do. They're great paths to victory, but Tyson Pedro comes into that octagon to swing bombs, and that's about it. Swing some heavy leg kicks. He has great leg kicks. Absolutely destroyed Ike Villanueva with leg kicks last time out. That boxing stance, he just threw a bunch of kicks. Got a vicious KO against Cage. That was an absolute layup. Ike Villanueva, not to be mean, is not UFC level. And the UFC is going, hey, you had a long layoff. We gave you a layup. Let's give you another layup, but not as bad. So they're giving him Harry Hunsucker, who's mainly like a karate-based. He has quick hands, in and out striker. At heavyweight, he was chonked. He was a little too big for heavyweight. Cutting down to 205 here, I am a little interested in that, but he's been chinned twice at heavyweight, like very badly. In addition to this is the worst one to me, being knocked out by Jared Vanderaa. That can't happen. I have no faith in you if you lost to Vanderaa. Just gonna leave it there. And additionally, before Pedro's win, he had lost to Shogun and OSP. He did tear his ACL in the Shogun fight, so I understand that. I think he'll win this fight by first round KO, maybe in a minute or less, maybe 2 minutes. I absolutely love the under here, whatever it is, feed it to me. And also Hunsucker was KO'd by Tuivasa and Tafa. So they just keep feeding this guy to people from down under. They're like, here you go, City Kickboxing. Here you go, Bulk Gym, Freestyle MMA. We're just going to give you all the Hunsucker love.
Yeah, you guys already heard a little bit about this fight from me because it is my smoke break pick. I flat out have to say it. Hunsucker is just not UFC level. He should probably be in Bellator somewhere. Definitely should not be on a pay-per-view card. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight actually got moved down by the time this comes out because it really shouldn't be there. I'm expecting a Pedro win early here. And at least it's going to be violence to start off the main card. But I bet that Rashad Evans is on the screen for longer than Harry Hunsucker is in this fight.
All right.
So let's hop into our draft this week. And our topic for our draft is the most electric fighters that are not ranked in the UFC. Paul, do you want to start us off with your first pick?
Yeah, I'll start with my first pick, and it's going to be Ricardo Ramos. I mean, this guy's super young. I think he's 26 years old, Brazilian. Team alpha male fighter. Uriah favors him. He's got great guillotine, great submissions all around, great ground game, decent wrestling. But more importantly than that, he's like one of the only guys besides, well, guys with 2 spinning back fist knockouts. The only person like in that category really was like Molly McCann, but that's spinning elbows, so a little different. He's had great fights. Every time he fights, it's an amazing fight. It's either him getting a finish, him getting finished, or just like a 3-round war slugfest. Amazing fight of the night. So I picked him as my first one, a little off the beaten path, but interested to hear who you got.
My first pick in the most electric unranked fighters. I think this is an easy one here. I'm gonna go Paddy Pimblett, Paddy the Baddy. Already he could sell out the OT by himself. Absolutely electric. His walkout, he had a main event walkout, and he wasn't even the main event. His stand-up, he does have a little holes in his defense in his stand-up, but every time he's out there, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be excited. It's absolutely electric.
Yeah, that's a good pick. It's definitely like the most mainstream pick, but I mean, his fights are amazing. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu is amazing. He's even adding in stuff like question mark kicks, even though his chin's literally up here. He's adding in some kicks to keep that kicking range, stay out of punches. I like it. So for my second pick, I already liked this guy before his last fight, but his performance last time out just made me like him even that much more. I'm going to have 2 fighters that are kind of correlated. So I'm going my second pick, Nate the Train Landwehr. I mean, this guy's an electric factory every time he fights. You can go on YouTube, type in Nate the Train. There will be a mixtape of like all his post-fight interviews from Russia. He's like 3-time M1 champion. Sure, Peter Yan and Mozart Evelev are from. Hilarious interviews. This guy, it makes Bryce Mitchell look liberal, as I said. He loves America. And every time he comes to fight, like he's going onto the D-Day battlefield. At last time versus David Onama, he got knocked out straight up in the first round, landed on his back, recovered, escaped, got back to his feet, survived the round, and then came back and put a 10-8 round on the guy. And third round, he's winning the round easily, doubling up Onama on the strike with some ground control, just decides to march forward for 20 seconds and gets dropped at the end. He for the fans' sake of entertainment, he was like, okay, I'll risk getting dropped to make this the fight of the night. Don't advise any fighter to do that. Would be pissed if I was a coach and my fighter did that. But for my viewing entertainment on the couch, pretty fucking cool. I like Nate the Train. He has great striking style, great ground game, amazing wrestling, some of the best cardio in the UFC. And I'm excited to see what he does. I mean, he is a little hittable, but he's getting better at, keeping his chin tucked and not recklessly marching forward as much. So excited to see his future.
Nice. With my second pick in our most electric unranked fighters, I'm going to go Ryan Hall here. It's always just great to watch him fight. He's a jiu-jitsu expert, and the way he uses it is just crazy. He's Imanari rolling around. He thinks he's Tony Ferguson 2.0, but that's like his main attack. I'll have some casual friends over. They think they're doing psychedelics. They have no idea what's going on. Why is he doing this? What's happening? And I'm just saying, just wait. And he either gets hammer fisted in the face going for Imanari roll, or he locks something in out of nowhere. And it's electric every time. I'm going to have to take Ryan Hall in the second pick here.
Yeah, I absolutely love Ryan Hall. I love jiu-jitsu myself and love going to it. And just watching the way he executes that craft in MMA makes it even harder. The way he inverts, turns his body around, goes for that leg lock, or spins over his own back for the Imanari roll sometimes, or into a double leg. It's super cool. Really love his grappling. And this is my third pick for most electric fighter and my final pick. I said he was correlated to Nate the Train, and this is the man that made grown-ass Joe Rogan cry on the broadcast booth. We got Darren the Damage Elkins. He also might be in a future draft for the worst tattoos for his damage tattoo on his chest. But, I mean, this guy comes to bang every fight. He has great wrestling and great cardio. But he'll stand on the feet for a bit and trade shots. He'll trade submission attempts. He's all about the fans. Amazing fighter. His fight with Mirsad Bektic, who is amazing prospect out of TriStar. at the time, like for us, the hobby, GSP, all those guys were touting that guy Beckwith should be like future of the division. He was a top 10 fighter. Elkins was getting his ass kicked, came back in the third round, won. A historic win, amazing win, made Joe Rogan cry. In addition, he had an absolute war with Nate the Train, which honestly could have gone either way. Elkins, unfortunately, just has, from all the damage, the cut opens up, looks like he lost the fight. But his last victory last time out versus Rosa was great to watch, and I love watching every one of his fights.
Yeah, I love that one. Shout out Darren Elkins. One of my favorite bets in MMA is to live bet him as he's getting his ass kicked, because you know he's going to come back at some point. It will happen. He will not get finished. With my third pick in this most electric unranked fighters draft, I'm going to go with Terrence McKinney here. I think he's the most explosive prospect in the UFC. Pretty good ground game, great power, good stand-up. He's just entertaining to watch every time out. It's usually going to end in the first round, and if it doesn't, then it's going to get a little scrappy because he's going to get a little tired. But he's still down to throw, and it's always going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I love Terrence McKinney. Amazing southpaw kicks, great wrestling. And he's a one-round fighter. Like, he's not coming there to fight for 3 rounds. He's coming there to finish you in the first round and get finished in the first round. I know he keeps saying in all these interviews that he has cardio and everything, and maybe it's true, but we haven't seen it. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a one-round fighter. He's there for 1 round of pure bliss, pure fan entertainment. And until he goes to a 3-round decision or wins in the 3rd round, you know, he's not winning past 1 round. So excited to move on to the fry picks of the week. Why don't you start us off?
All right, so these are our fry picks of the week. If you don't know what these are picks that are not in the Vegas books. Hopefully one day we can get them there, but they're just fake picks that we're having fun with. And we'll put a fake number next to it to see how likely we think they are. My first fry pick of this week is I'm going to go Paulo Costa to over 1.5 insane tweets during this fight week. If you follow him on Twitter, you know his Twitter's an absolute riot. It's just everything and anything in between he'll post on Twitter. He doesn't care. He probably drank too much wine. And I want to see what happens during this fight week. So I'm going to hammer the over 1.5 insane tweets, and that's coming in at minus 170 line.
Yeah, I love his Twitter. Boachina is the Twitter GOAT of MMA as far as I'm concerned. Some absolutely hilarious tweets. Go toss that boy a follow. He's also just as entertaining in the cage. And my first fry pick of the week is going to be the man, the Brandon Knight of MMA. He just loves to get put on a poster. So I'm going with Luke Rockhold to get knocked out in a hilarious manner, put on an absolute poster. It'll be hanging in someone's room one day because they'll be a fan of the guy because he got knocked out so amazingly. It's coming in at minus 110. And yeah, you know that Yoel Romero knockout? He's against the cage, absolutely brutally knocked out, and just gets hit with the most unnecessary hammer fist. And Yoel comes up and says, "I love you, bro." Tries to like kiss him on the mouth after the fight. That was super questionable and hilarious. And then also the Bisping knockout was also kind of like, it's not funny because he got knocked out, but like kind of funny. He got absolutely chinned back against the cage, completely unconscious, and Bisping let off about 4 frustration. I fucking hate this guy, hammer fist on him. And then the Blachowicz knockout also got hit with an unnecessary hammer fist. And you know Paulo Costa is going to hit him with unnecessary punches because these guys have been going back and forth a bit. Paulo Costa is not an angel by any means. So I think there is high potential for a hilarious knockout here, and that is coming in again at minus 110, and I'll be taking that.
I love that one there. With my second fry pick of this week, I'm going to go with Trevor Whitman to scream his head off for Kamaru to use his jab. We saw this a few fights ago with Gilbert Burns. Trevor Whitman, absolutely addicted to the jab. It seems to work out as Usman's game has gotten a lot better, and all Whitman's athletes are very good. But he loves the jab, and I can see Usman not using it in round 1, 2, and he just scream in his face to use his jab. Just use it over and over again like he did against Gilbert Burns, which he ended up dropping him with. and that line is going to come in at a -140 line.
Yeah, I love that bet. Whitman's one of my favorite striking coaches in MMA. Unfortunately, last time out, Pat the pedophile Barry had to ruin Rose Namajunas and get her to throw no strikes. And Whitman couldn't do anything because he wasn't the head corner, but I love that. And so for my second pick, this guy loves himself, showing up to every press conference, everywhere, shirtless. He's coming into the camera saying, I'm a problem. So we got Kamaru Usman to say he's a problem into the camera after the fight at +150. He can't do it if it's a boring clinch decision, but if he chins Leon Edwards, you bet he's jumping over the cage going to Dana saying, I want Canelo, I'm a problem, these hands are real. He's saying some shit like that, even though Canelo would box his ears off blatantly. So yeah, that's coming in at +150, and I love it because, he is a problem.
With my last fry pick of this week, I'm going to go with to be able to easily hear Matt Serra yelling from Merab's corner. If this was in the Apex, this would be an absolute lock. We're looking at a -500 line. But this large crowd, it poses some questions here. So that we're going to get this line here at a -180. If you know Matt Serra, he has this, you can pick out his voice with a group of people. It's the loudest, maybe most obnoxious voice I've ever heard in my entire life, but you can hear it if you're fighting in there for sure. I'm gonna take this bet at -180 that the cameras clearly pick him up yelling here.
Yeah, I love that corner. Ray Longo, Matt Serra, they might be the funniest corner in MMA. Punch a hole in his fucking chest. Shout out Ray Longo for that one. And then shout out Matt Serra for screaming incoherently. I can never understand it, but it gets me fired up in my living room. And for my third and final fry pick of the night, I'm going to be going with another one related to Luke Rockhold. If you watch any of this guy's interviews from any time, when he said to Bisping he was a fucking samurai, I got Luke Rockhold to be insanely awkward all fight week at -250. To be honest, this bet might have already cashed, so it might be a little illegal putting it on here. I just watched an interview he did with the Schmo. He was completely shirtless. He was babbling on about nonsense. None of it made any sense. He was talking about his dog biting his toes during the interview. He makes me look socially competent, so I will be absolutely hammering that at -250, and I absolutely love
it. Believe, conceive, achieve. That is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Teeks and Takedowns episode 4. We will be back for the next card. Maybe not next week. We're still thinking if we can get enough topics in because there is no UFC card next week. But leave a comment, see if you want to see us again, and we'll do our best to try to get it there.
Thanks to everyone who took some time out of their day to watch this.